What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and to the shack today. Gonna start a new, I'm not even gonna say the word series. Well, I just did. Start a new video today on getting this shack back in order. As you can see, this is a mess. And so I've got some ideas for cleaning things up and getting things sort of into their final location. I feel like I wasn't able to do that as far as drawing a plan back, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, because I had not yet acquired all of my gear, and obviously your gear's always changing, or in most cases, and so I didn't really want anything set in stone at the time, because things would be coming in and I'd have to move them, and I've already had to do that a couple times, and I have unnecessary holes in the wall as a result back there, because this shelf had to move. But basically, want to get things cleaned up, and I'm going to kind of draw a plan and come up with what's going to work best, but I'll just outline a few things here that come to mind right off the bat, and we'll look at a plan here in a second. But one thing is this massive 95-pound amplifier I do not want taking up my entire desk. This thing is, I think it's 20 inches wide, 17 inches deep, and about 12 inches tall. So it's huge, and it's taking up my entire desk, and that's a heck of a lot of weight on the desk as well that I don't want. So my plan there is to move that down below kind of my processing rack here, and I want it to sit up as high as possible, right up against, or close to up against the bottom of this EQ at the bottom of the rack there, because I still want to have the floor space open, if possible. If need be, I might run some supports down to the floor, just to take some of the strain off of the desk from supporting that weight. But I want to have as much open space on the floor as possible, if needed at a later date. So that's one plan, is to move that thing down, and that will also have it facing out in the appropriate direction. Right now it's sideways because I don't have long enough jumpers to have it in place and face outward. So we'll need to look at ordering those in the future too. So we'll do that. Something else I'd like to do is make better use of this shelf here, which might involve moving it again, because my antenna tuner is bigger than my original that I built that shelf for. So we might build more of a dedicated shelf for that and get that up off of the desk space, because that's another requirement or piece of criteria that I'd like to have, is more desk space available. So getting that massive tuner up here on this shelf that's not really used would be nice. I'd like to have my power meter, I think, right on top of my radio, or somewhere thereabouts where I can see it nearly at all times, and it's kind of right in my field of view with the microphone. And I'd also, I'm pretty sure, like to get a mic riser, because when I have my, I'll try and show this the best I can. When I have my power meter here, and I pull my mic down, it's hitting the top of it, so I can only get my mic so low, and it's not low enough. So I think the way to fix that would be get the riser back here for my boom, and then I'll have the boom way up here to where I can lower it down more so. And I like that idea. So that's something else I'd like to do. Other than that, I think it'd be nice to add a couple shelving units. I don't know if those will be built-ins or just standalone units, but I'd like some shelving over here on this wall or in the corner, because that's kind of an unused space, and that would get my random stuff off the floor and up onto the shelving there. And I'd also like possibly a shelving unit over here. This one would likely be built into the corner or on this wall behind the lamp. That way I can still roll in the AC as needed seasonally underneath that shelf and not have to move the shelf. So I guess our three main things are to clean up the floor space however necessary, clean up the desk space however necessary, and I guess that's it. Those are the two things. So let's take a sheet of paper here and kind of draw some ideas. Well, I take that back on drawing the plan. I think what I want to start with instead is just not necessarily taking everything off the bench, because I think that's more than needed, but we'll just take some things off here and set them over on the bed. So that way we can just get a good look at our available space and kind of pack stuff back in. I've been working on my new amp, well, new old amp, and playing around with this tuning pulser that I just got. I'm excited to do a video on this in the future and show tuning the amp, but I've figured out a lot of stuff and I'm going to share that on a future video. So be on the lookout for a video on the Heathkit HA10 Warrior. That'll be pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with this top shelf, other than, I guess, this radio, and not crazy about my turntable position or the stack of records sitting there. But I think for the most part I'm going to leave this top shelf alone, because that's just too much stuff to bring out that I don't need. Here's a homemade mic switcher. I think I've shown in other videos. So look at the inside of that. It's pretty cool. It's not 100%, but I'm pretty happy with it for my purposes, and I know the quirks of it. What this does, I'll just give a quick explanation, is I have a foot switch and a single mic. So a single key, you'd call it in radio terms, and a single mic, and two different radios that I'm talking to. The way that I have it set up, and I'll show that mic side of it in a second, but this is the key side of it. So when I hit that foot switch, whichever switch I have engaged determines what radio is keyed. So the foot switch comes in here, and the two radios are connected here. So I'm talking into both radios at all times, but I'm only keying one radio at a time. So that's how I did that. And you could have the same design for as many radios as you wanted. It'd be kind of cool. Kind of hate to do this, but I think we're going all in. I just pulled everything out of the mixer, so we'll do a video on setup too. I think that'll be kind of cool. Not part of this organization series, unless you want. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see all the detailed setup, or if you'd rather have a separate video on each thing. That way, if you're interested in it, you can watch. If not, that's fine too. But let me know in the comments if you want to see the audio setup and the radio setup and amplifier and all that, or if you'd rather have separate stuff on those. Here's a look at the totally massive antenna tuner. This is the Dentron monitor. Pretty sweet. I've been very happy with it. It's just basic. You've got your coax in and out, your single wire antenna, and then a balanced wire antenna. The one thing this doesn't have that would be nice is a bypass, but I have the means to have a separate bypass to my dummy load through the use of just a coax switch, so not a huge deal. A bencher CW key. As we're going back together, I'll kind of tell you what everything is at least. I thought I might leave my transceiver here, but there's a lot of cables behind it that need straightening up. I'll show you those in just a second. There's the Kenwood TS820. I think there's about 1,000 or more pounds of equipment in here, at least. Okay, here's an update on how the bench is looking. It's just a big mess of cords that need straightening. So I'm gonna take this amp down and set it sort of where we want it, and we'll get that measured up for a shelf. I think we'll measure this shelf and figure out where it needs to go to house the tuner, but this will all be part of our drawing here in a second. So I'm going to set this down, and then we'll get to work on these cables. Okay, so here's where we're at. I can get these Kleenex out of here. And just some other random stuff. So I'm okay with the cables where they're at. I am going to tidy them up with some zip ties and just kind of get them either in one run if possible, or if they're too long, I will coil them up loosely just a little bit and tighten that down so they look better. But a lot of these are going to be hidden underneath the radio, and they are necessary where they're at. So there's no reason to pull all those out and just redo them in the same manner. But I'll get those cleaned up. I'm going to look into a riser for the microphone. It'd be nice to do it now, but worst case scenario, if I have to do it later, it's only a matter of removing the transceiver, which is just a couple of connections, so that's not too bad. I did go ahead and take out the record player. I wasn't crazy about the location of that anyway, and it's pretty rare that I use it, so I'm going to look at a new location for that, if possible, and something new to go up here. So any thoughts that you have with that, let me know. One thing I like is that when I'm seated, everything I need to access quickly is within reach of the chair right here. So I want all my quick access stuff like coax switches, antenna tuner, amp, radio. I want that stuff right here, microphone, speaker volume, things like that. But the stuff I don't need quick access to, like power supply, is up here. Just random radios I have on display up here. So if there's any other quick access stuff or not so quick access stuff that you guys can think of, I could maybe put the lamp up there. It might make more sense up top to get the whole room kind of lit up instead of just this area of the bench. So let me know if you have ideas of what to move up to this open space on the top. But in the meantime, I'm going to wipe down the desk once it's all cleaned off here, get the cables straightened up, and then work on this amp down here, get that measured out, and build a shelf for it to sit right below this rack and have the most floor space available underneath if possible. So that's where we're at for today. Here's a look at all the stuff behind me that needs a place to go. So let me know in the comments if you want an individual video on some of these things or not, and what your ideas are for future organization. I'll be working on this throughout the week, so I'll probably try and put this out tonight. Tonight is Tuesday, and this will interrupt our snowplow build, but I do have part 2 of the snowplow filmed, so I'll get that up here soon as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.